You know, one of my favorite things in reaching out to Course in Miracles students, teachers, is the great prayer, I'm only here to be truly helpful.
Yeah.
Whenever I reach out, almost inevitably, I get this enthusiastic response of, yes, I would love to talk anything A Course in Miracles. Um, and your response was so full of enthusiasm and full of love. Um, there was no hesitation, and I love it. I want to thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. I love these conversations, and I love what you're doing. I think it's so important.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Um, and you really are truly helpful. Um, Anyone who spends any time on your YouTube channel, on your podcast, um, absolutely sees with certainty what you're doing, and that you have, um, just call it, in course language, your special function, and you're performing it.
Mm, thank you. I that's my aim each day, right? To listen, to connect to that. What's the way to serve, to be truly helpful today? I love that as kind of the North Star, the compass. So,
Right.
yes.
So when were you aware that this was your special function?
That's a great question. So, good question. Thank you. I'm like, woo, that goes back. I would say that I have always been high empath. I've always felt people's feelings and energy and struggled a lot to kind of learn how to moderate my own for a long time. I did a lot of different kinds of inner work. And really coming from that place of learning how to love yourself, right? And so I think truly the shift, because the jobs that I had before I started this work were always to be helpful. I actually think if you really look at any job or anything we're doing, it can have that lens of being helpful.
Right.
um, for me, it was about 15 years ago. I really just had a moment of clarity. It was not an easy moment of clarity. It was just an awareness that the life I was in, it wasn't exactly set up or aligned for. Now I can see where I am today and where I'm going. And so that was not easy. I had two young kids, married to someone else at the time, going just had a health crisis, like a lot of tough moments. And I think what happened was that was one of those pivotal moments where I heard, you could call it the Holy Spirit, you could call it your intuition, guidance, inner being. Like I kind of use those words interchangeably, but I
Right.
definitely had this knowing and connection. And I heard from some very wise voice that while it sounded like mine, it didn't sound like mine. And it really said, it is time for you to go in a new direction. Like it's time. And I knew it intuitively. It was a big deal to do that. And I think once I really tried to do that as lovingly as possible, that meant, ending a relationship, a marriage, and moving and going back to school, and then eventually starting my own career. I just kept getting more and more insights dropped in where it was, do this, right? Go start this business, go write this book, start a podcast, start do this work in the world because it's going to help people. And for me, my intention has always been, how can I hear that voice more? The voice for God, right? The voice for
Right.
God. And how can I hear that daily and in everything I do? Because I started to realize anytime I listen, even when it might feel a little scary after I really took it in, it's always led to this win-win-win of just being of service. So I would say for the last 15 years or so, it's been my guidance system, and having this business for 12 years and the work I'm doing, that's how I make my decisions. That's how I decide what to do. This conversation, it was a no-brainer. It was like, absolutely, this is going to be helpful. So that is always the question, Eric, I'm asking is this going to serve? Because if it's not, then I don't want to say it or talk about it.
Right.
I just don't.
I'm glad you said the voice for God, um,
Mhm.
because I've told this before. Forever, I, I've been reading, studying A Course in Miracles for 30 years, a little bit more. Um, and maybe it's my Catholic upbringing. I switched it around in my mind, the voice of God. And that's a very subtle difference. There's nothing wrong with listening to the voice of God, but it seems outside.
Yeah.
Like you're listening something distant, receiving some type of outer guidance. But when you get that voice for God, and you realize that the voice of God is within you, everything seems different.
I love that distinction. It's interesting. I was wearing this shirt today. I just literally, this was a phrase that came to me a couple years ago, and I was talking to someone who does a lot of speaking around the world. It's just very tapped in soul, and she's like, "That's your book. You got to do something with that." I thought, okay, and I just kept getting this message, Julie, do something. So I was like, I'm going to create merchandise. I want to wear it because I want to remind people you're divine by design. That means to me, the divinity, the divine God literally is in each of us, is you, is me. There is nothing of you, I believe, that isn't that. And that voice, that is not, it's not outside of us. We all have
Right.
access. We all have a free all access pass. It's like the best show in the world. We all have the VIP ticket, but do you know you have that ticket? That's the question.
And probably most of us don't.
Right.
I,
That's
I
right.
think even picking up the course, it takes some convincing. You might have an inkling that there is something within us.
Yeah,
And, you talked about all of us having that divinity within. That's what makes true forgiveness possible, right?
absolutely. And of course, knowing that for yourself, knowing that for every single person, no matter what they're saying, it's either right, there's love or it's a cry for love. I love that. Like those two distinctions. And it helps to boil it down when I see somebody acting out. And boy, do we have a lot of examples of that.
We do.
A lot of acting out. And by the way, there are times when I've acted, there's a cry for love. I felt that. And can I look at myself through the eyes of God, of the divine, of the Holy Spirit? Again, different wording depending on what resonates. I love thinking about it as, can I see myself through the eyes of God? Can I speak to myself through the voice for God? Can I see that in others and not rush to judgment, which of course always leads down a path
Right.
that is not where we want to go.
That's a great insight that you just offered. And I think even on the path for a long time, we might miss it. Our own cry for help. We get pretty good after a few years of seeing the cry for help from other people. But maybe for some of us, it takes longer to recognize when we're acting out, when we're literally crying for help.
Yeah.
Um, and we push it aside. We put on that stoic, um, I'm going to grit my teeth and work my way through it instead of, as the Course says, everything is turned over to the Holy Spirit. Everything,
Yeah.
or every thought.
Exactly. Everything. And, remembering this, we look separate. It doesn't mean we are. Like I'm here in a separate phone box over in this, wherever I am, and you over there. And it just really seems like we're all separate. It helps me to think about it like the spokes on the wheel, like in the center, it is the one source, right? God. In the middle, we're all part of it. There's no one who's not part of that. We're all connected to the all that is. We all are, even when it doesn't seem that way.